Yeah, greetings all and welcome back to another one of our PSCM module session this Sunday, the 18th of April 2001. And today we'll be looking at the situation in St. Vincent. As you know, there's been a volcanic eruption down there. And from what we've seen on the news, the people down there are in need in terms of what the volcano is doing to St. Vincent. So today, I'm happy to say we have several people from St. Vincent with us. We have Sister Tessa, Sister Daffodil, and Brother Jomo, who is live in St. Vincent himself. We are expecting to have a few more people on. So as they come, we'll enter them into the studio. But as usual, before we start, we always start off by a libation where we pay homage to our ancestors. So that's Ndugwe will be performing that for us. So after which we will show a short video just to show people the background of what's happening in St. Vincent before we go around to the panel, who will then be telling us how their involvement is with what's happening down there in St. Vincent. So right now I'd like to hand you over to Ndugwe, who will be changing the energy for us.
Okay, it's Asante Sana Ndugu, and Hamjambo Jamaa, which in Kiswahili means greetings, kindred. So my name is Imani Nassau. I'm a member of the Pan-African Congress movement, and Ndugu does simply means brother in Kiswahili. And we use Kiswahili in the Pan-African Congress movement as it was deemed from the 6th Pan-African Congress that if a united Africa, that the lingua franca, the language of commerce, language of education, should be Kiswahili, as so many millions of Africans already speak it, but still giving respect to all other languages, ethnic groups, and cultures within Africa. So that's what we're going to do. That's why we use Kiswahili. Now we're going to use a ritual invocation in the African spiritual tradition in order to get us into the right vibration and the right spirit to change the energy. It's called Mabadaliko Ya Nishati. So something that I do every day as a African spiritual life coach, and something that was transferred over into the organization that we now do. But African spirituality isn't about coercion. So if anybody on the call or anybody watching doesn't feel comfortable with it or doesn't want to take part, that's absolutely fine. There's no need for anybody to take part in anything that they're unfamiliar with. But please do give respect, and if you don't want to, then mute yourself or take yourself off screen. But if you do, please leave yourself unmuted. We're lovely to have you join part of the vibration. So as you feel. So I'm now going to share the screen in Ndugu so you can see. Okay, Ndugu Taka, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so Mabadiliko ya Nishati in Kiswahili means change of energy, a form of libation where we don't, in cyberspace, we can't be together as we wish to be, and we usually use water or alcohol to pour the libation, but we're going to use our energy. We're going to give the offering of our energy to the all, the creator, to the forces of nature, the elemental forces, cosmic forces that underpin all things, and to the ancestors. Okay, so I'll begin. So everything is translated on the screen, so you can follow. So it's not only about us getting used to our traditional practices that have been taken away from us, but it's also about us. This exercise is about teaching as well. So people get familiar with it and don't feel that they don't know what's going on. They can feel part of it as they become more familiar. Okay, so Right, so I will now change to next screen. Okay, so I'll speak, and please follow along as I indicate as we go along through it. Okay, so we begin. But first thing we're going to do, in order to get ourselves into the right frame of mind for the very serious topic that we've got to talk about, and being in connection with each other wherever we may be in the world, we're going to breathe together. And we do that called something called pot belly breathing. So if you've ever done martial arts, this would be familiar. So what we're going to do is we use our whole lung capacity, because the air, our breath is our spiritual connection to our spiritual essence and and the link between our physical essence. So to bring them into one, so that we move away from where people want us to be, which is to be emotional, reactive, and animalistic, instead to be in full possession of our abilities, of our capabilities, of our mind and our spirit. So, Ndugu Tahaka, is there a number that pops to mind that you're resonating with?
Yes, Sita.
Sita, so 6. Okay, so we're going to breathe together 6 times. Okay, so how we do this is using our full lung capacity. When we breathe out, we're going to pull our stomachs in, and then to breathe in, we're going to relax the stomach, and the air rushes in through our nose. So breathe out through the mouth, in through the nose, pull in on the stomach, and you'll feel the difference if you take part. Okay, I'll count in Kiswahili to keep time. So if you wish to take part, please sit straight wherever you are in your seat, so that the 7 energy centers, or the chakras, as the Hindu Kush called them, are in line with your spine. Feet flat on the floor, palm of your hands on your thighs. Okay, and we'll begin. So, breathing out, relax, and breathe in. Moja. Breathing out, relax, and breathe in. Hold it, and breathe out. Relax, and breathe in. Tatu, and breathe out. The mouth, pull the stomach in. Relax the stomach, breathe in there, breathing out. Relax, breathe in. Tana, relax, breathe out. And now relax stomach and breathe in. Sita. Okay. So going on to what's on the screen. So I'll read this out. So kubadilisha nguvu sasa tunavyoshukuru wote, mamlaka na mababu, kuuliza kwamba tuna uhusiano wa karibu nao na kwamba watusaidie katika kuonyesha malengo yetu. To change the energy, we now thank the all, the powers and the ancestors, to ask that we have a closer connection with them, and they assist us in manifesting our objectives. And in order to be one with that vibration and to give of ourselves to that vibration, to that offering, we're going to ring this triangle chime 3 times. 3 is the quantity for spiritual quantity for creation, for creativity and giving birth. So I'm going to ring it 3 times, allow the vibration to go around you, through you, and over you. Open yourself up to the vibration, resonate with it, so you resonate wherever you may be, come one with that area. Then it opens up your 3rd eye, so you open up to universal consciousness, the creator, and so we can connect with each other wherever we are. So continue to breathe deeply as I do. Right.
Well, look like it's frozen. He's having some problem there with the connection. Okay, I think the best thing to do since the money dropped out. I'm not sure what's happened. It's just for us to see them. So what I like to do now, I just like to play just a brief clip. It's a little clip from Channel 4 News, just giving a background as to, I think it's about a couple of days old, as what was happening down there that we were seeing from this side. And I'm sure Brother Jomo, who's on the ground down there, will be able to fill us in a lot more. But it's just to give a little background to our audience, to our viewers who's watching. So what I'll do now, I'll just play, let me just connect that video. Brother Mani, you back?
I am back. Do you want me to continue, or how do you want to do this? Shall we continue?
Okay, we're just about to start. Let me just pull this.
That's about to start. Yeah, because I'm having a technical difficulty, so I don't want to hold us up too much. So.
Okay, let's just try again. Let's just go ahead and see.
Okay, right. So.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm there. Right, that's it.
Oh, you want?
That's it. So let's close that down. Stop sharing. Okay, let's go. Okay. Right. That's much better. That should look at there. You can see that. Okay. Is that up in Dugutaka?
Yep.
Okay, right.
Can everybody else see?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, so we just run through this quickly, just to give you a bit time. Good morning. No, I think it's frozen again. So, okay, what I'll do then is just go straight into the meeting. Okay. What I'll do at this point, then we just start because he's having some technical problems there. So I'll just start by playing this briefly.
Well, at 6:16 this morning, there was another explosion, and experts are warning that this is far from over. Over the last 48 hours, we've been keeping an eye on developments, and it was actually a lot quieter when it comes to the volcano. However, experts don't want people to go back up into that red zone, back up into the north part of the island. That's the last thing they want people to do. Now, this isn't just an issue in the north of the island. I'm standing here in the south. It's called the green zone. It's the safe area. There's ash all by my feet here. You can taste it in the back of your throat as well. So this is an island-wide problem. And I've been speaking to people about the issues and challenges they face, and they've told me about the supplies of food and water being the most that they are concerned about today.
Even from nearby St Lucia, getting to the island of St Vincent isn't easy.
Flights have been suspended for a week now, the volcanic eruptions making conditions treacherous. Boat is the safest option. You have to strain to see the outline of the island coastline through the ash. So behind those cliffs over there, that is the volcano. That is the red zone, the north part of the island where people have had to be evacuated from. They're not allowed to return home. It's really difficult to even see and make out that area at all. Impassable by road. So people have had to move down towards the south part of the island, and this is called the green zone, where they're going to be safe. This cruise liner, docked in the capital, Kingstown, is waiting to take British and American citizens off the island, warned by both countries that if they don't leave now, they might have to stay for an undetermined amount of time. That's because of the unpredictability of La SOUFRIERE, these satellite pictures showing before and after the first eruption. Towns in the red zone covered in ash, colourful rooftops turned
Are you hearing the
grey,
sound?
looking like an apocalyptic landscape.
Hello?
Homes unrecognisable from each other. Farmland destroyed. And families not knowing when they'll be able to return. There have now been several eruptions, including one today early in the morning. A local seismologist said the danger is still very much there, and he described the volcano as being quite busy. Ready? One of the biggest challenges island-wide at the moment is water. Volcanic ash contaminating supplies, not just in the affected area, but across St Vincent. At this market, the lack of water is an issue that a lot of people are talking about. Are you able to get what you need?
The truth is that the way how the water coming into St. Vincent, my opinion, it is less organized for the people, and is that the rush, how people rush for the water, and they ain't fully organized how they're supposed to be placing the water.
Melanie got up at 3 a.m. to get water for her home, but that's not the only problem. What effect does the ash have on food?
Well, when the ashes come down on some of the food, it burn them, it scorch them, like turn them brown, different color. The tomato trees, it turn them like purples. The lettuce, it turn them real ugly, that you wouldn't like to eat the leaf, how it looks. They pull the mask all over my eyes when the wind start blowing.
There's dust here as well, isn't there? Like all over the market.
Like even on all of the food that we have here. But we really need the place to be washed down. But they are saying that they don't have no water, but I don't know if they can pump some water from the sea and get it washed down, because it is real terrible for our health.
Phil is now working in the market after leaving the red zone with his brother a few days ago. What did it sound like? What did it feel like?
It feels terrible because it's like everyone panicking, everyone running up and down, you see people crying, all like that. Everyone trying to get out. It was terrible.
Eruptions and ashfall are expected to continue for days. But despite the challenges, people that I spoke to at the market said the community is pulling together in hard times.
Okay, that was just a short little clip, just a little background for those who are watching. So now I'd just like to introduce the panel. And so can everybody unmute, please, if you're muted. I'd just like to introduce the panel. I'll just go around in turn. And I'd like to start with Brother Jomo Sanga. You could just say just a little bit about yourself, please. Hello? I think you're muted.
I was saying, thank you for having me on. My name is Jomo Sanga Thomas. I am here in St. Vincent. I'm in the extreme south of the island in the green zone. I am a journalist and a lawyer by training. I was recently in the last term, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, I served for 4 years and 2 months, and I resigned that position in February of 2020. I continue to write a column in the newspaper, the Vincentian, called Plain Talk, and I have a radio program that is every Monday evenings from 8 until 10 on VFM radio, and that program is called Voices. So I've been around for a while.
Okay, thank you very much. And now I'd like to go to Tessa Mason. Just say a little bit about yourself for the viewers, please.
Yes, I'm a member of the St Vincent and the Grenadines Women's Association in London, in the UK. And naturally, this is something that we're wanting to highlight in an effort to galvanize support, funding, resources, etc., to the island on behalf of the people of St Vincent.
Okay. And next we have, what is Sister Daffodil Forbes. Can you say a little bit about what you're doing?
Hello, my name's Daffodil Forbes. I'm a retired lawyer. In England, we have barristers and solicitors. I qualified as a solicitor, and I worked 36 years for the criminal justice system and the Thames Valley Magistrates Courts, which are the criminal justice. At the moment, I actually live in High Wycombe, and that's where I'm at the moment. And we were at one time the largest population of Vincentians outside of the island, settled in one place. So our population is mainly, though there's lots of Caribbeans, and we now have movement of, we have Asians and Africans. Africans being the least, people who've come the last to this area at the moment. The population of most West Indians, there is somebody in the family that is Vincentian now, because obviously people have integrated. But so the response to what's going on in St Vincent is really important to us. I think everybody's been watching it every day. The community has come together, all people in the community, be they Caribbean, Asian, English, to try and get things sent off to St Vincent as quickly as possible. And we've had an overwhelming handouts and that. We so much so we had to start turning things away yesterday, and we are at the moment getting things down to Southampton. We've got to ship off on Wednesday, and we have the last lorry going tomorrow, and we've got our churches and that I think are sending things down to get to that ship by Wednesday. WIMCO, which is an organisation that's a charity organisation, which is organised everything, but I don't think they were quite prepared for the response that they got. So we have just been packing, labelling, sending out, and as I said, all the business community, all communities have really stepped up to get things sent to St Vincent. We've tried to concentrate on medical, women's personal hygiene, and food. That's what we've had a lot of clothes as well, so we're trying to just send everything that we can.
Okay, that's brilliant. And we're also joined by Brother Pepper Kai of the base here in London. Just a little bit about yourself, Brother Pepper Kai.
Yes, I'm a member of the Pan-African Congress movement and proprietor for Pepper Kai Books Distribution Services.
Okay, now everybody's introduced themselves. I think it's best to go straight to Brother Jomo, who's based in St Lucia, to give us the latest as to exactly what's happening down there, because as I know, I've been watching the news and been getting that version, but as somebody on the ground, you'll be able to fill us in more fully. So, Brother Jomo, something?
I think the excerpt which you had captured pretty well what has been happening here.
Yeah. Could just everybody else mute, please? But there's a bit of background, quite a bit of background noise coming through.
There's nothing coming from here.
No, yeah, no, not you. Everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying the video which you featured earlier pretty much captured what is happening. The volcano first erupted on the 9th, and then there was a series of eruptions. Up to the 7th day, there was an eruption, and as your background video said, the entire northern third of the island had to be evacuated. The entire landmass is covered with dust. There's much more dust in the north, the red zone, but clearly here in the south, and I live, as I said, to the extreme south of the island, there's dust everywhere. Even where people had to keep their doors and windows closed, as we did, there's still dust. It is creating a monumental humanitarian situation here in St. Vincent. 16,000 people were evacuated. Most of them found shelter with friends, family, colleagues. Others may have rented available apartments. But close to 5,000 people are still in shelters. In the very early hours, things were very, very difficult because there was a lot of people to cater for. But I think as the time go on, things are getting a little better. We had a loss of water. In some areas, we had a loss of electricity. The electricity, for all intents and purposes, on and on more consistently. The water is coming back. I think about 70 or 80% of the people now have water. Here in the south where I am, the water goes sometimes, but it comes back. It's much more reliable now. And people's lives are slowly gaining some regularity. I can't say it's coming back to normal because there's still a tremendous amount of dust in the air. I was talking to someone recently, and one of the things that we were mentioning is that we are going to have a serious respiratory illness problem because of all the dust that people are forced to inhale. We're also going to have, I think, a lot of mental and psychological dislocation where people look back, those persons who had to move south, when they look in the red zone and see the condition of where they lived and the prospect that they may be out of that area for a very, very long time. When the volcano erupted in 1979, it is my understanding that evacuees spent like about 4 months out of that area before they were able to go back. This time around, I think it's going to be much longer. Dr. Robinson, Richard Robinson, the chief volcanologist on this, says that we can expect, based on his estimates, that the volcano may continue erupting for days or weeks or months or even up to about a year. So we certainly have not gotten out of the woods as yet. And even when the volcano stops its eruptions, the whole question of cleanup and redevelopment is going to present a monumental task. I would think that the damage runs well into the billions of dollars. The fact that the economy literally closed down. And this is a situation where we were coming off all of the dislocations that came with COVID and the governmental response, the national response to deal with the COVID pandemic. And now we have a double whammy in the sense that we have this volcanic eruption. So I would think that we're in a very difficult situation. The people who are feeling it the most are the people who are in the shelters, as I said, up to 4,000 people. But certainly the entire population, which has shown a tremendous amount of goodwill and solidarity in going to meet people and talk to people and help those people in the shelters, they too are also suffering from stress and strains and all kind of other mental and psychological problems. So that's what I would say is where we are now. We are getting a lot of assistance. We are glad to hear that other people are sending assistance because it would take a lot, particularly now that we are tending to solve the water problem, but clearly food and medicine and medical products, sanitary products for particularly our females who are dislocated. Those are going to be needed and needed in bulk for a very long period.
Okay. So on the other thing, so what kind of assistance have you been getting, say, from the other Caribbean islands? You know, nearby there's Barbados, there's St Lucia, and of course further afield, Jamaica and Trinidad and so forth.
Mainly got assistance with water and food, blankets, cots to house people. Those are the kind of things and the regional response has really been monumental. All across the region, all across the Organization of Eastern America, all across the Eastern Caribbean states and CARICOM, the Caribbean community, we have had a tremendous amount of assistance. Everyone chipped in, all of the governments, all of the people assistance has been pouring in. And that is really commendable. It really shows that we are one people, we are kith and kin, we are brothers and sisters, and that solidarity is acknowledged, and we pay homage to all of those who have really gotten together to assist at this time.
Okay, that's brilliant. Now I'd like to turn to Sister Tessa Mason of the the St Vincent and Grenadines Women Association UK. If you could give us a bit of background in terms of what your organization is doing here in the UK and how people could be of assistance. Yeah.
Sorry, I think I was muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, we recently set up a GoFundMe page. We're liaising with various supermarkets with a view to obtaining donations of food, you know, particularly tinned food and non-perishable items. We're speaking to various community centres and various other Vincentian households, people that may have a spare room in order to, you know, store these items. We've identified, you know, a shipping company that we can work with that is able to ship goods at a discount. You know, these are the things that we are doing.
Okay. So in terms of, because I know obviously the people from St Vincent and the Grenadines, that community is very mobilized. So what about the communities outside of that community? How could they get involved?
Well, as I say, we've recently set up a GoFundMe page, and certainly, you know, we have been, you know, reaching out to people who are sort of non-Caribbean, you know, from the Asian community, Europeans, as well as, you know, the extended Caribbean community. So, you know, certainly that is something that people can be doing.
Okay. So what about actual physical goods, you know, items? Say somebody wanted to donate food or clothes or.
As I say, we're in the process of identifying various community centres that we can drop these goods off to. I mean, I had a conversation yesterday, for example, with the Claudia Jones Centre. You know, there are various other Vincentian households that may have a spare room and so on. So, you know, once we have that structure in place, then we can alert people as to where these drop-off points are.
I'd just like to go back to Sister Daffodil, because I know you said, I was speaking yesterday, that you're actually in the process of shipping down goods. Same thing to you. How can people get involved? I know you're based around the High Wycombe area.
At the moment, we're asking for donations to go to the official website that's set up with the commission. It is a GoFundMe page, but it is the High Commission. It's the trust. So we're asking at the moment that people donate to that. Because our ship actually leaves on the first ship leaves on shipments leave on Wednesday. We've just halted the collection, asked to halt the collection of items while we too look for spaces either at a discount, or if people can donate a storage space free. So we're trying at the moment to get everything that we have so far collected down to the ships that are leaving on Wednesday. And then once we know where we're going to be able to store things, then we'll let the community know and start collecting again. It seems to be that people would, the need is for medical articles, food, dried tin food, and dry pastas and rices and things, and feminine hygiene and cots, as you said, for children. We did say that we'd still like to have male clothes, but we're trying to stress that please don't send us clothes that you would not want to wear yourself. We're finding that we want the clothes that's needed are good quality. And yesterday we had to, this week we've had to go through things because space is precious. We're trying to make sure that what we store and what we send is what the people are going to appreciate when they get it, and not feel and things that they appreciate. And I think at the moment it's going to be food, water, medical things, and maybe children's clothing. And we did have quite and bedding and things like that. We did have quite a setup of quite a lot of people donated Wellington boots, which I thought was a brilliant idea, because they're going to need it for clearing the streets. And then we did have quite a lot of sleeping bags, which again, I think someone thinking outside of the box and realizing that would be something that people would need. So what we're thinking about is the next shipments will be for maybe thinking about what people are going to need when they're returning to their home. Sort of thinking, but then the other thing is to listen to what we're being told from St Vincent as to what they are actually finding that they need. But as I said, we've had a tremendous response from everyone in the community. I work as a volunteer with a few organisations, one of which is our local museum, and they are in the process of they have a Facebook following of some 2,000 or 3,000, and they're just waiting for us to tell them what we need so that they can post on Facebook what it is that we're going to need most.
Okay, that's great. I think we have with us brothers, is it Cecil?
Yeah.
Cecil Brown. Yeah.
Yes.
I think you're also from High Wycombe.
Yeah, sorry we're a bit late. We've been packing all week, and having done the general stuff for the shelters, it's now a case of getting some boxes for the family. So I've spent the last 2 days getting some stuff, and in fact I'm just in the process of packing 3 boxes to send for the family, which is the reason why I'm a bit late. As Daffodil said, we've had a tremendous response in High Wycombe. We were at the centre from 5 till 9 from Tuesday. Yesterday we thought might be a little bit slack. In fact, we were overwhelmed by the amount of material people were bringing in, foodstuffs, everything that you could imagine that people wanted. They've come in. We've sent, I think it's about 10 van loads, and I don't mean a small van, it's the transit van loads down to the port. It would have been simpler to have a container locally so that we didn't have to touch the goods 3 or 4 times. But be that as it may, we've collected a huge range of materials which would definitely benefit people in the shelters. As you can imagine, we were quite rushed because we had to get all this to be shipped on Wednesday. So for the next phase, what I'm expecting is that we look at what people will need, not just in terms of food and so on, but things to clean, so brooms, brushes, mops and so on, spades, shovels and whatever, so that the physical hardware, things like detergents for the centres would be prominent in the next lot of shipping, I suspect.
Well, yeah, thank you very much for that. Now I'd just like to turn to Elder Pepperkai briefly, for him just to come in.
Yes, greetings, brothers and sisters. We were expecting a representative from the government of St Vincent, so as to get a governmental perspective as to what's happening on the ground and what the government is mobilizing. What's the feedback that you get, Brother Darker?
Well, I've sent out all the links. I know people are still trying to come in, so they may still, because a couple of them are having problem connecting.
Okay.
So that could still be the problem.
Yeah. If I could come in there, please, if I may.
Yeah.
People have been very generous with their time, with the amount of material they've bought. And one of the things they would like to see is what happens on the ground. So we want to see there is so much material sent. We want to see the process of allocating goods at the warehouses, how it goes to the centers. We want some, we get stills of, you know, here's a ship coming in. We want to see exactly how this is done, how is it allocated. We want to see the trucks or whatever taking the things to the centers. People want the transparency to ensure that everything that they've given is actually getting through. So we want evidence of this. You know, some people can be a bit funny. So it'd be nice to see something to show us how the material is going out to the centers. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. They were expecting a few more people, but I think the connection to St Vincent seems to be having problems. Even Brother Jomo seems to have dropped out. So while they're trying to connect now, I'd just like to open it up broadly now in terms of what's actually happening down there in St Vincent, because watching some programs earlier, I found out that there was a massive eruption in 1979 that resulted in quite a few fatalities. So the basic question is, as St Vincent Society, is it an ever, say people, are they living with that thing in the back of their mind that this volcano could erupt any time? And the other thing is, do any of you know just how much warning people were given? Because as you know, the top of the island, I've got a map here, the red zone.
Yeah, the island has been on alert for quite a while. There were what they call effusive, I think it is effusive eruptions where material was seeping up. The volcano is monitored by the University of the West Indies, and there's been a briefing daily by Professor Roberts, who's also been essential. So people were on orange, and they were told to be on standby. So in effect, the scientists seems to have got it just about right. They said, be ready, and then they said it's time to evacuate. And as far as the message we get comes, those who wanted to comply. Some people will refuse to go because that is their nature. But most people who were told to evacuate, it seems, evacuated at some stage.
Okay. Glad that Brother Jomo's back. Because what we were saying in St Vincent in terms of the eruption, in 1979 eruption, apparently there was quite a few fatalities. What's the situation this time?
In terms of what?
In terms of fatalities in the 79 eruption, quality of people, it seems.
We have had no known fatalities. We have had no known injuries as a result of the eruption. But there, as I said, tremendous dislocation, there's tremendous overwhelming ash cover in the red zone. There's a significant amount of ash cover all the way down in the green zone. And as I alluded to earlier, this may present some health problems, mental health problems, psychological problems, respiratory problems, but we have had no fatalities as far as the authorities have been able to announce. There are some people who stayed in the red zone, and we don't know if anyone perished as a result of that decision, but there has been no official announcement that anyone has been found dead in the red zone.
Okay. The other thing I saw, there was some cruise ship pulled up, and apparently some evacuation was taking place. So was those ships only to evacuate like tourists, or people from the island itself being evacuated?
No, well, on the night of the eruption, on Friday the 9th, by the evening, some cruise ships started coming in. I think many of the cruise ships are based in Barbados, and they came over because there was an understanding that regional governments, St. Lucia, Grenada, Trinidad, Barbados, and even further afield, Antigua, Dominica, Jamaica, may be willing to house many of our citizens. But within days of the eruption, it was announced that the cruise ships were made to leave, were directed to leave, because they did not get sufficient enthusiasm from those persons who had to be evacuated. There was no insufficient enthusiasm to have people go on to the cruise ships and be taken to other countries. So the cruise ships have left, and no, as far as I'm aware, up until yesterday, there were no evacuees. I remember, I think on Thursday or Friday, a number of Trinidadians, I think it might have been about 130 of them, who were resident here, left and went back to Trinidad because a humanitarian shipment came up with people from the Trinidad Coast Guard, and they took the opportunity to leave on that vessel when it left.
Okay. Now I think there's a brother Wallace has joined us. Brother Wallace, can you hear us? If you can, you're muted. You would have to unmute yourself. Still muted. Oh, can't hear. Now the other thing now in terms of what's happening in terms of this country, say for instance, I know they said there's a big community of St. Vincent people right up and down this country. So I don't know, Elder Pepperkai was here a minute ago because you say he was looking for space. I don't know if anybody has approached him in terms of possible space at the Mark Centre in terms of storage. Because that centre is in North London. I don't know if that would be of any use. Let me see if I can get him back in. So take somebody off the screen. Okay. Yeah. The Pepperkai.
Yes, Brother Talker.
Yeah, part of the things that was being said, they was looking for kind of temporary storage space or temporary space as things come in. So I was saying, I don't know what the situation is with the Mars Center. That say, could that be one of the drop-off points on a temporary basis?
Regrettable, but talk, we're in the process of renovation, and there's no space. In fact, we're looking for space ourselves to move some of this stuff so we can carry out the renovation.
Okay. Okay. So at this point, I mean, everybody, I'd just like to open it up now so anybody can come in if they've got any more information to fill us in with as regard to the ongoing situation.
In fact, I would like to ask Jomo a question.
Okay.
Regarding the evacuation, because we heard that these cruise ships turned up to evacuate people who wanted to leave, and they were told that if they was not vaccinated, they could not enter the ship. Could you clarify that, my brother?
I think you're muted.
Sorry.
Okay,
No,
yeah.
I'm not muted.
Yeah, you're unmuted now. It's okay, fine.
Okay. So I was saying, in the early hours after the eruption, there was some confusion. There was, for example, a statement from the Minister of Tourism and Culture, in which she had said that once people were going into a government-operated facility, that people would have to be vaccinated. It was not a drill, it was a pandemic, and people would have to go in. And then there were also the statements which were making the rounds, and where officials of the government, including the Prime Minister, said that the regional governments may have been making evacuation to their countries, vaccination a condition, or that people, if they were to leave to go on the cruise ships, if they were to leave to go to other countries, they would have to vaccinate. So, and then later, the Prime Minister did come on radio and say that was not a requirement, people could leave. So there was early confusion and early misinformation, disinformation. But I think the clear understanding now is that anyone who wants to leave may not have to be vaccinated.
I'm having some difficulty with the voice. It's not very clear.
Yeah, it's just the connection. There's nothing I could do with that. But he came across quite well. I mean, I heard what he said. I mean, having the headphones, that would help. If you put your earphones in, that would be a lot. Yeah, anybody else would like to update us with anything? Yeah, I think Brother Cecil, you're muted though. Brother Cecil is still muted.
Can I just say that when it's better if when someone is talking, everyone else mutes, because that's
what I was trying to get you to do. Yeah.
The feedback. But,
okay.
Yeah. So when just as long as you remember to unmute yourself when you're going to speak. But I think when you're not,
right.
if you mute, then it's better. I apologize that I whizzed off. That was my mother-in-law letting me know that some food she's prepared for the guys that are helping us load the van tomorrow is ready for collection. So we need to get that.
Yeah. Can I just ask Brother Jomo about the structure of the centres? There's been a video circulating about some headmistress at a centre. Could you tell us how the centres are structured in terms of who's in charge and so on, please?
Yeah, the centers, essentially what happens, most of the shelters are government schools. And what has happened is that the principal of those schools, in many respects, turned out to be the point person, the central point person, the center, the person whom people report to. There was this one incident, one story that made the rounds about a particular headmistress at a government school. It's close where I am here, right down the street. But I can't say definitively what the situation is because there have been stories on either side, and it's probably yet too early to say where the truth is to be found.
But there is what people want to be clear of, that there's a clear there is a center manager in place, there is a deputy manager, and there is a structure in place. It's not just people are free to.
Yes, there's a structure in place.
Yeah, and that's the thing that needs to be emphasized to people.
The organization of the centers are getting better as the days go by.
Thanks.
Yeah, just that I know a few people trying to get in, but they're not connecting properly, so we're still having that problem there. So the other thing is in terms of on the video, it was mentioning about the ash, that's being picked up and it's covering everything, and about attempts to clean it up. And I know the sister in the video was talking about, well, obviously you can't use the water, but the water is very precious. But she was talking about the possibility of getting pumps to pump seawater to try and start clearing down or washing down. I don't know if any moves on that front. This is to Brother Jomo.
Well, the water situation is getting much better. By Friday, I heard the CEO of the Central Water and Sewage Authority say that we are about 60% back up. The Jenin water catchment, which carries water to most of the people on the East Coast, from Calico all the way up to South Rivers, is, I think, back on now. So most people would have water. Sometimes it's cut off, but people are getting water pretty regularly. In addition to that, one thing that we really got from our neighbors was water. There is a tremendous amount of bottled water here in St Vincent and the Grenadines, and in fact, that may present another problem for us, as all of that water is used, and then we have all of the plastic bottles. But I think it is safe to say that the water situation is now back to a point where it's tolerable. What had happened is that in the shelters, because they are mainly schools, there were not sufficient toilets, there were not sufficient bathing facility. But now they are putting some of those in. So that too would make for a better situation. But that is coming. It's 1 week on now since the eruption that is coming on.
Okay.
Can I just ask then, since we're loading tomorrow and we've got water, are you saying that perhaps you're not in as desperate need for the water to be sent at this moment?
Well, I would think so, but I am not a government official, so I don't want to.
The thing about water is it's very dense in weight, so
yes.
we have our trucks measured and weighed. So obviously, when we're putting water in, it takes up the weight. That it doesn't take up the room, but it puts up the weight. So, and one of the things, our storage tomorrow, where the water actually is, may not be causing a problem to the building. So what I can say tomorrow is, let's get everything else on the truck and leave the water till last.
I would think so. I would think that's a good decision. But like I said, I'm not a government official. I don't want to pronounce on those matters. But based on my observation, I would think the water is coming back. We have a tremendous amount of water that came over from Venezuela, as far as Venezuela and Guyana in the south, all the way up to St. Lucia, Barbados, Trinidad. So there's a lot of bottled water here, and the potable water which comes out of the pipe is essentially back on.
Okay, right. Thank you for that.
Any more points while we're here to the minister? Yeah, the secretary. You're muted.
It's just a question to Brother Jomo. Given the fallout and the wind and the travel of the dust, how is it affecting neighboring islands like Barbados, an island much closer to St. Vincent? What's the fallout affection there?
How is it affecting air travel?
No, man, neighboring islands.
I didn't hear the question clearly.
No, he's asking the dust. How is it affecting neighbor islands such as Barbados and St. Lucia?
Well, Barbados, in a sense, was in the eye of the storm because Barbados is directly east of us. Well, east? Yes, east of us. And it seems as though there was a very strong westerly current coming from the west. So it took a tremendous amount of ash over to Barbados, and they had to close down. Their airport was closed. In fact, I'm sure some of you might have seen a situation where, like early in the morning, I think it was Friday or Saturday morning, it was so dark on Barbados that the drivers on the street had to put on their lights on their vehicles. So Barbados got a tremendous amount of dust. Grenada got some dust, and St. Lucia got some as well. So those neighboring islands got some. I saw a report which said that the dust was now making the rounds around the world, and places as far as away as Spain had been affected by the dust.
So you said the airport. Is the airport still closed? No, it was mentioned at the airport.
The Vincent Airport should be opening on Monday. The airport here should be opening on Monday. The Barbadian airport, which was closed, opened, I think, either Friday evening or Saturday evening.
Okay. So in terms of the volcano itself, what's the prognosis for it? Is it expected to continue erupting, or according to the scientists?
That's what Dr. Robinson, the chief scientist monitoring, says that these eruptions can continue for a while. He said it can continue for a week, a month, or up to a year. So we are not out of the woods yet, based on his scientific projections. We all hope, though, that what we saw on Thursday evening was the last. I mean, Thursday morning was the last.
Mm-hmm.
And can I just ask about people who remain in the orange zone or the red zone? Is there like a sweep of police during the day to check that the region has been vacated, or what do they do? Do they just leave them to their own devices or check?
The security forces go in, mainly in the red zone, and encourage people to leave. But the overwhelming majority of people who live in the red zone have left that area. They are now in more secure parts of the country. There are still some people who remain. There are people who would have left, but occasionally go back to visit their homes, and that's a difficulty. That's a problem, because as the scientist said, you can never be sure what would happen when an eruption can come on, and if you get caught in a pyroclastic flow, then that would be the end of you. There's a lot of
yeah.
Excuse me?
was going to say, but there are quite a lot of people, certainly in the orange zone in my village, who simply refuse to leave. They're quite happy to take their chances because they're saying historically.
People are taking their chances, but it's a very difficult situation and very dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous indeed, yes.
And while we're talking about possible continuous eruption of the volcano in St. Vincent, it is mentioned that other islands also have volcanoes, and it's likely that they're predicting eruption on other islands. In fact, Brother Thomas left. Be interesting to know.
No, it's here.
Oh, sorry, good. If you could put some light on this aspect.
I have heard nothing from the scientists which says that the increased activity or the eruptions in St. Vincent have triggered any activity in the neighboring islands. So there's nothing which says that we are having increased activity on any of the other islands close by.
Well, let's hope that is so and it remain that way.
If you ask a question, I did not hear it.
No, I'm saying, given what you said, let's hope that is true facts and it stays that way.
Exactly. All of us would hope that.
Yes. But we can't live on hope, so we need to have our scientists verify that position.
Well, that's why I said that the scientific projection was that none of these other volcanoes showed increased signs of activity. None of them. And you can be sure that they're monitoring, just like they're monitoring St. Vincent, they're monitoring Montserrat, they're monitoring all of the active volcanoes. There are 6 active volcanoes in Dominica. They're monitoring those in Martinique and Guadeloupe, all of the chain. But there has been no statement that because or in addition to the volcanic activity in St. Vincent, there's increased volcanic activity on any of the other islands. There has been no such report.
Okay.
Now, the other thing I would like to ask, so things like GoFundMe has been mentioned and other ways people can donate. I mean, what would be good if I get the information at the end, then I can put it in the description of this video so people can contact whoever to, contact you directly in terms of they want to make a donation. Now, the other thing is, I was thinking, I mean, is there, I suppose there would be like a contingency plan. Say, for instance, for whatever reason, the volcano just got worse and people had to be evacuated from St. Vincent, or some people would have to be evacuated. What is the, would it just be like take them to the nearest island, say Barbados or St. Lucia? Is there such a contingency plan?
As I have said repeatedly, I am not in the inner circle of the government. I am in the government. So I can't say what the contingency plans are. I think there is no indication, and I've listened to Dr. Robinson, who speaks literally daily, and there's no indication that the eruptions may become so cataclysmic that we may have to have an island-wide evacuation. But I am sure that the leaders are taking all of these contingencies into consideration, and they may have spoken with their regional partners in neighboring islands. They may have even spoken to authorities further afield, the British, the Americans, who may be able to assist if we ever get to that eventuality.
Okay. So, I don't know, Sister Daffodil, any more you'd like to add from what you've heard so far?
No, I think what we've heard so far is fine. I would just say, addressing the lady in Kalakwa, I did manage to contact a cousin who knew her personally and said that that was quite characteristic of her, but that things were being investigated and sorted out, and that all but a couple of shelters had problems, but most shelters were running fine. And considering there's over 70 or 80, 90 shelters, that's really good, because this is the first time it's actually been set up as in the way that it has. So yes, she was obviously the video we all got to see, she was quite cross, but I was told that she's a neighbor of one of my cousins, and she tends to have that sort of personality, but it was just take it in your stride. It's been dealt with all in good time. I think I would just say that my partner is actually in St Vincent. He left in November, and he's chosen not to come back at the moment. He's probably coming back within the next couple of weeks, and he said that on Friday a ship, a cruise liner, left to go to St Martin. But if you took it, you had to quarantine in St Martin, and then you'd have to quarantine where you were when you got home. And when I spoke to a friend of mine whose family is all in St Martin, he said he didn't think it was a very good idea to go to St Martin because the numbers of COVID were on the rise quite substantially. So once we took that information on, it was thought better to wait for the airports to open, which are imminent within the next couple of weeks, than take the risk of going somewhere that when you went there, it might be there in the red zone for quarantining, so that when you came back to, I don't know what America's like, but if you come back to England, if you come from a red zone, you have to quarantine, pay for quarantine in a hotel for 5 to 10 days, and that's an additional expense. So it wasn't, my partner felt it wasn't worth him taking off to go to a red zone in the sense of COVID problems. It was better to come back, because I think St Vincent's COVID is relatively low compared to other places. So that was some good news. But what I was really impressed with is how quickly information is got once you ask for something, because we've got WhatsApp, because you've got the news, because you've got various things, information's coming back quite quickly. And I really felt that we were involved, because you felt that when you asked something or said something, it was getting to someone in the government quite quickly. They were, and that was being looked into, and an answer was coming back from maybe not a government official as such, but someone who it was obvious that they had the proper information. It wasn't, oh, I think this or I think that. It was actually things were coming back quite quickly. So all in all, I've been thoroughly impressed by the whole management of what's happened, and the information that is coming to us and what we're seeing. So I think St Vincent should be quite proud of how they've dealt with this disaster.
Yeah, I would like to echo that from what I've been reading and following. I'm very impressed how everything has just been, dealt with. There has been no panic to such or anything. So I'm very impressed how St Vincent has moved on things so far. So, Sister Tessa, I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add as well from what you've heard so far.
Well, just to say that the love and support has been overwhelming, and it's wonderful to see that not only the community coming together, but the wider community as well. So it's not just about St Vincent, it's not just about the Caribbean. Worldwide, people have been very supportive. Extended funding, And I think it's just brilliant to see the humanity that that people have over this terrible crisis.
So I don't know, Elder Pepper Kai, is there anything else you want to ask, or anything else that comes to mind? Yeah, muted still.
The African Caribbean Community Center here in London, during this COVID period, I know they're closed, but I will reach out to them because they do have space, and that could be a center for collection here in North London.
Brother Pepikai, are you making a reference to the African Cultural Centre in Turnpike Lane?
That's correct, yes.
Yes, I have already reached out to them, and I'm awaiting a response because I'm aware that they're renovating at the moment, aren't they? It's officially closed, but the brother was going to speak. A brother was going to speak to the management, but he's yet to get back to me.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you're in touch with them.
Yeah. We do have I think we've identified a community centre in Hackney. The secretary of our association has identified a community centre in Hackney. But naturally, before we start distributing the information, we need to be absolutely finite and clear about what we're doing. We need to have a clear plan so that there's standardized directions, so so people are not sort of lost and sent here, there, and everywhere. So the information certainly for what we're in terms of what we're doing is coming in, and we are kind of coordinating it and joining all of the dots so we can then let the community know about that.
And while on the subject, Sister Tessa and also Sister Daffodil, regarding shipping charges, what support are you getting from the shipping company as to what to charge to moving these goods? Because shipping does eat up quite a substantial amount of money.
Yes, I agree. There have been some shipping companies that have dropped their charges. I'm aware that there have been a shipping company in particular that has sailed the barrels either at discount or for free. So in terms of that aspect of it, there have been shipping companies that have been quite generous as a result of the situation.
Brilliant. So I suppose the only other thing is there some kind of any kind of thing like WhatsApp group that people could be joined, that they could be kept up with information as it come, or anything like that, or because at the moment, as you say, the information isn't that centralized in this country, so people are getting bits and pieces or what they're picking up, or is there any tension of putting something up like that?
Now, I'm aware that there are, there are multiple streams and appeals, because naturally, in a situation like this, people will just want to help. I'm aware that the certainly for St Vincent Women's Association, of which I can only speak, we are a membership. We did put out a Zoom meeting very recently, where we had a number of new members wanting to join, and we are updating our Facebook page and Instagram and so on, and I can't speak for the St Vincent High Commission, but no doubt announcements are made on the website, but I'm not aware of a WhatsApp group. No.
Okay, the other thing is, when disasters like this happen, you normally get quite a few artists, especially musical artists, come together and wanting to do something. Have there been any moves like that you know of? Or anybody know of so far?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
No, I'm just saying, normally in disasters like this, one of the first people to come forward and lend their support is normally like a lot of these musicians who would tend to come and, I suppose with COVID, I suppose it would be difficult to put on concerts.
I think that would be it's because of COVID, because you're not allowed at the moment to sing. You're allowed to play instruments, but there is that you're not allowed to be in a public place singing because of the way the disease is spread. And they are only, I don't think that you're allowed to have any gatherings up, and I don't think it will be before March. Sorry, I don't think before the end of May. Our museum, we're not allowed to open until the end of May, and we've still got we did the Windrush exhibition last October, and it was just about when we opened you started having the shutdowns, and we've got a pop-up museum which we've had funded, and we haven't been able to open, and we're just waiting for this year's funds to see whether we can talk the council into allowing us to keep our pop-up museum, because our natural museum is very small, so it wouldn't have been good to have people come into our smaller museum. So we were given a shop space, but we're closed down. And so if places like museums, and these are the museums in London, you know, the Natural History Museum, Victoria and Albert, they aren't opening until May, centre to the back end of May. So I don't think they'll be encouraging concerts, and that's the way museums work. That's the way musicians work. The only thing I can think of is musicians that have gone online and they're doing their own podcasts. I'm not sure if they are collecting money. You know, I think people have to be careful, because there's so many bogus ones that are set up, that I think people are looking for official sites attached to things that you can check out.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's the thing. So, Brother Jomo, you've been on the ground in St Vincent now. You said you're in the south of the island, right on the south, in the green zone.
Yes, I'm in the south, extreme south.
Okay, so from what I saw of the video, they were saying it was quite, you know, it was relatively quite covered in ash. So how bad was it in terms of the fallout of the ash?
Well, it was pretty bad. When the volcano erupted on the 9th, by the morning of the 10th, you had a fair amount of ash on the ground, because it is estimated that the second eruption, the dust went as far as 69,000 feet into the air. So that took some time to come back down. And plus the wind was blowing it away. So a lot of it fell, as Dr. Robertson said, in the mountain and in the immediate environs, but the wind took it all the way south and east. So that's how we ended up with so much ash on Barbados and some catchments in St. Lucia and Grenada. In the south, where I am, the ash, as I said, was an inches. But even now, a week after, you would sweep a given area, let's say a veranda, and in about an hour or so, you can feel it underfoot, because a lot of the dust, it's almost microscopic, but when it lands and accumulates, you can feel it. So a week after the major eruptions, there's still an accumulation of dust. So you have to constantly sweep and mop to get. And I could just imagine in the air itself, when people are walking, doing the daily activity. So it presents a real problem. So even though those people who had to be removed from the extreme north, closest to the volcano, and are now in the south, there's still a lot of problems, particularly as it relates to apart from all of the other difficulties that they may have, the dislocation, the sense of loss, the disorientation, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, that problem is compounded, and I think the people in the shelters are particularly vulnerable because in the shelters, as I said, the schools and the community centers are being used. But because we are in the tropics, the way we build schools, they are not as enclosed as, let's say, the temperate region. So there are a lot of fancy blocks, there's spaces that to allow for ventilation. And that's not the best place, or that was not the best place to have someone in the immediate aftermath of the eruption. So in the immediate days, you had people, volunteers, going around trying to find plastic sheeting to make sure that they can enclose the area and allow for less dust. That is getting better, but it remains the main problem because there's still a lot of dust in the atmosphere.
Now, keeping to the dust problem. So if that is the case, that there's a lot of dust, is there any moves to try and get masks, to encourage people to wear masks? I mean, I don't know how
people are wearing
masks would do. So, okay, they are.
People wearing masks. Even before the eruption, because of COVID, a lot of people were wearing masks. And I think that they are continuing to do that. But what has happened is because we don't have the heavy dust and the strong smell of sulfur, let's say on Fridays, as we had on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, as we got into the week, and you're not smelling the sulfur, you're not seeing the dust it's not accumulating on the ground in the same way. Many people, including myself at times, would, for extensive period, remove the mask. But as we all know, dust can be microscopic, and it can accumulate and create problems. So that's what we have to guard against now. I think one of the problems we have is the pets, the dogs, the sheep, the cows, the animals are having a very difficult time because even if once they are outdoor, and they're eating, if they eat the brush, the trees, those leaves are heavily covered with dust. And I was looking at a program in Barbados where a veterinarian was saying that could create real health problems for the animals.
Now, the only other thing that comes to mind then, is there any like advice been given in terms of, I don't know, when it comes to diet, anything that could help counteract the dust? Because I remember growing up, it was like, I don't know how true this is. They thought if you drink milk and stuff when there's a lot of dust in the air, that would help. I don't know if there's any general medical advice going out to the population how to counteract this dust in terms of the diet and so forth.
Well, there has been suggestions for people to constantly wear a mask or to even double up with the mask because that's one way of keeping the dust out of your lungs. And that's good advice, I would think. So people are wearing masks, they're wearing visors, they're wearing goggles to keep the mask, to keep the dust out of their eyes. But people have to be reminded that even though we don't have the thick or heavy fall of dust as we had in the immediate aftermath of the volcanic eruption, that there's still a lot of dust in the air. I think what we really need in St. Vincent now is a good shower of rain, long, sustained rain, that will help to take a lot of that dust out of the atmosphere and to wash away a lot of the dust off the ground.
That's good. So I don't know if anybody else has any more points they'd like to bring up. Yeah.
Just a question. Yesterday, one of the gentlemen that was getting distressed, he was tending to think that you have a shortage of masks, or a particular type of mask that's needed because of the dust particles. And one of the ladies that overheard him was saying that there are 3 ships in the area. They're called Mercy ships, and they should have that sort of cargo on board. So I was just asking, have you heard anything about Mercy ships in that area?
I have not heard about that. Generally, it is said that the masks that people are wearing are not the best ones. I know the one that was highly recommended was, I think it's the N95 mask. Yeah. Most people don't wear those. Most people wear the cloth mask.
N95 is hard to wear. It's hard to wear here. It makes you very hot. But yes, it is the best one. But
even the cloth masks make you very hot. But so we don't have the N95. At least you see officials wearing them. Government officials, stop people in emergency work wearing them. But the general population don't have them.
Okay. But I know when we were first asked to wear masks for COVID, I made masks, and basically homemade masks from material with 2-3 layers are more than good enough to wear, and they're washable, and so therefore you don't have the masks all over the place, as the blue ones are tending to be found everywhere. But I don't know if it just takes a small amount of material, perhaps somewhat, people who are seamstress could set up actually doing that and layering them up.
And well, that's true, that people are making masks as well, and they're selling. And one of the things that I did hear, and I don't know, it may well have some scientific basis, is that the recommendation was to wear a cloth mask and to keep it damp, because in that way it would stop the passage of the dust. So some people have incorporated that into their styles.
But if what I was going to do is try and locate the person who knew about the Mercy ships and just find out whereabouts they are, and if they are in fact already heading to you, because you've said you haven't heard about them. So I'm sure if they were in the area, you'd hear about them.
I probably would have.
Yeah, okay. I'll try. I think that's all.
Okay. I'm just looking at a couple of comments here. There's one comment saying that
I just want to say,
yeah, carry on.
No, what I was going to say is that I know that people who are listening to your show, if they would like to make contributions, I'm sure all of these different agencies in the UK are collecting all kind of material. But I know that the government has also, it may be advisable for some people, if they want to make contributions as well, to speak to people at the high commissioners are, because I know that the government in the last few days have been asking people, particularly people who are well endowed, to make monetary contributions, because it is not just for this immediate crisis, but what follows the reconstruction, the redevelopment. And I can tell you, if you look at the pictures, you ought to see that it's going to be a monumental task to clear up the northern portion of the country and to bring it back. The dust and the ash is so heavy that we have evidence now that a lot of the roofing is falling in. So that would create a problem for persons. So anyone who's listening who wants to make a contribution, I'm sure Ms. Forbes and Ms. Mason can direct them to persons who who may be more than willing to get that money on to the requisite authorities here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay. Yeah, there was a comment here that the sister said she's based in Leeds and she would like to help to raise some funds or like to do a fundraiser. But don't think she knows. So it's just a way of connecting, it seems. People are saying they would like to have the ability to connect. So I don't know what's the best way to do that. So like I'm saying, if I get the particulars and I can put them in the description of that video, then people watching this video then could get in contact. I don't know, I think that may be the best way to go about this.
Just to say that we don't plan for disasters, but when disasters land on us, we do respond. So we need to look at how to reach out to the different groups up and down the country who's mobilizing in support for St. Vincent. And now we can kind of link up. And so we're not working in isolation of each other.
In regards to funds, the UK-SVG combination response to SOUFRIERE eruption is headed up by H.E. Lewis, High Commission, and that's with the Friendship Trust. Do you want me to send you that information?
Yes, if you send me that, then I can put it in so people can get all this.
Yeah, that's the official one that basically you know that it's going to come. They've already raised, when I looked on Friday, they had raised over 167,400, and their aim is to raise 250,000. So they're well on their way. And so anyone who's raising funds, it would be good, whatever they raise, then to log in, to take it, send it to there, because that's the safest thing at the moment. And I know all round different people are starting GoFundMe GoFundMe pages, but that is the official GoFundMe page. So I can send it to you, and you can distribute it. And yes, it's going to be about the clear up. And I think one of the videos I've seen where someone had said the reason they had gone back into the red zone was because of their roof had collapsed. They had a business and the roof had collapsed, and because of the dust, the settlement of ash, and if it rains and the ash is in the what do you call it, the down pipes or the pipes along the outside that catch water, that it can dry in there and clog up. So people were trying to get those cleared. So yeah, I think money is going to be the thing that people need, and it needs to be in a safe place where there's access to it. So
I think I'd also just like to add that the Bank of Akampong, the Maroons of Jamaica, have a digital currency called Lumi. And especially where we have Africans who are experiencing disaster, definitely Lumi digital currency will be something of real benefit. In fact, I'm aware that there is a stimulus happening at the moment where 6 Lumi a month is being given to each African age 18 and over. It's a stimulus package that started in October of last year. And the idea is for it to go on for 2 years. So we have approximately 18 months of it running left. So Lumi is a free form of digital currency that I would urge the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this particular crisis time, at this critical time, to get onto the platform online. If you have internet, if you have a smartphone, you're entitled to your 6 Lumi each month. It's a free digital currency. It has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. It is a digital currency that the Maroons of Jamaica, the Bank of Akapong, have created. And the underlying value, as I understand, is solar power and gold. So at a time like this, when just about the entire planet is falling into economic crisis, economic recession, there may come a time when islanders will not have any food. There may come a time when islanders, will not be able to access resources. I would urge all people from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to register for your Lumi and collect your Lumi, your free digital currency. There's a stimulus package happening at the moment. It's not asking you to hand over any cash. It's a free digital currency for yourself, and it's a Lumi marketplace where you can buy different resources, where you can buy even food. I've seen on there. So it's free digital currency that's being given to you. It's not asking for you to hand over cash. And this doesn't just apply to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This applies to Africans all over the globe. That's the purpose of it being set up.
Very interesting. Yeah, thanks for that news. Yes, sir, Brother Jomo, come through. Okay. Did you want to say something, Brother Jomo?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I was just taking by the points.
Okay. Yes, that's a good point that the sister made, the digital currencies and so forth. I mean, that brought to mind, say somebody, I don't know how far-fetched it is, say somebody wanted to donate, but they wanted to donate in cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoins and stuff. Is there, if there's any facility to take that on?
No, I'm not aware of there being any facility to take that on. And that is not what I'm talking about at all. What I'm talking about is currency that is being given to Africans everywhere, especially as the island is in a state of crisis. Persons should take advantage of the currency that is being given.
Okay. Well, I think that's been very insightful, the information that's come out of this meeting, and I hope all those listening. So if you do want to help or contribute towards the humanitarian move in St. Vincent, I will be putting information in the description, and that's from the Sister Tessa Mason's organization. That's the St. Vincent and Grenadines Women Association UK. I'll also be taking information from Sister Daffodil's group and putting as well. So just in case people want to get involved. And like you said, if you do want to do any fundraising and money is raised, I suggest the best place to divert that is to contact the High Commission. And Brother Jomo, as you are on the ground in St. Vincent, and you have given us a good insight as to what is happening down there. But just say, for instance, you may get people that say they want to come down you know, rather than sit here, they'd actually like to make their way down to St Vincent to volunteer, to do whatever is possible. Do you know of any moves for that? That if somebody wanted to physically come down and volunteer on the island, what do you think of that kind of move?
What I would suggest is that they speak with the High Commission.
Okay.
I am sure the coordination can be done at that level. If somebody's has some specialty, engineers, technical people, or doctors, they can speak with Senior Lois, and I'm sure arrangements can be made for that person to get in. As I said, the airport reopens on Monday, so arrangements can be made. We don't have any flights. I think there was a projection that we may have had flights from London to St. Vincent this coming June. So I don't know if that remains on schedule. Otherwise, people may have to fly into Trinidad, Barbados, Grenada, or St. Lucia, and then come over.
I know that Cecil, who was on with us earlier, is booked on a flight for June. Whether that still goes through, but he had rung up very excited just after Christmas that he'd booked his flights straight, the Virgin flights coming into you for June. I think because he has all his sisters have moved back to St Vincent, so he was quite excited about coming down. So when he booked them, he was worried about COVID. I'm not sure now this has happened, what the worry might be now. But yeah, so there are, if people are flying.
About COVID here in St Vincent?
Say that again?
His worry was about COVID here?
His worry when he booked them was whether COVID would be lifted for him to be able to come. Right. Obviously, since the volcano, there may be another worry, but I would imagine things will be fine by June. So as long as we don't have another surge of COVID, you'll see him in St Vincent in June.
I'm sure his family members would like to see him.
And I think my partner said he had been out to offer help for what if anyone could needed it, but he hadn't had anyone reply to him saying what was needed. But you all were under an order to stay inside last week at some point, weren't you? So I think he was complying with that. We've a few people at yesterday have got some elderly people that had got quite worried because the shops were empty. So I think he's going in the week to go and try and make sure that they've got some shopping. But I think it's just people just having to volunteer and help.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of volunteerism that's taking place. The shops, I haven't gone into the shops. I don't know what is happening in the shops, in the stores, in the supermarkets. But I know that there was, immediately after the eruption, there was a rush on basic, like rice, sugar, biscuits, water, toiletries. I'm not sure whether that has settled or not.
Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for coming on here today on this platform, PACMTV, to give this valuable information as to what is happening down there in St. Vincent. I'd like to thank Tessa Mason from the St. Vincent and Grenadines Women's Association. Also like to thank Sister Daffodil from Upton High Wycombe. And also like to thank Brother Cecil. I know he's dropped out. Cecil Brown also, I think he's based in High Wycombe and work with Sister Daffodil. And I'd like to give a big thanks as well for Brother Jomo, all the way from St. Vincent, who have, given us a good insight into what's happening. And one of the things that in times like this, it's good to see Black people pulling together and coming together. Like you said, the other islands right across the Caribbean, CARICOM itself, are all mobilized and come to the aid of St. Vincent. And likewise, we can see people living outside of that region in the UK, and I'm sure the same thing is happening in Canada and the USA and so forth. So it's good to see at a time like this that we have that togetherness, that we will come to each other's aid. And for this station, it was a privilege today for PACMTV to give any help it could in helping to highlight the situation down there. And hopefully by highlighting it, we will encourage others who are watching also to get involved and do whatever they can to help out. So again, thank everybody for coming on today. And as we close, now normal way I like to turn also Elder Pepperkai sitting there. Yes, a bit dark in the background, but I'd like to thank you again, Elder Pepperkai, for your wisdom and words, and also helping to, you know, get the contacts, especially for Brother Jomo and others. It's very helpful in the background to help make this meeting possible today. So now I'd like to hand over to Ndugu Marni, who will be closing us out by changing the energy for us. Yes. Do you want to say something, that's okay?
Yes. Early on, it was mentioned that the support was coming from different communities, from the Asian community, from the British, and it was said that we have those of us from the Caribbean and the Africans. We must all remember that all of us on this panel are Africans. Some of us are continental Africans, some of us are in the diaspora, but we're all one people, we're African. We must never ever forget that.
That's true. Yep. So, yeah, I'd like to hand over now to Ndugu Marni, who will close the meeting for us.
Okay. Asante sana, Ndugu. Asante sana to the Asante sana to the whole panel. Again, as Ndugu Tahaka has already said, much appreciated. And so everybody who's listening, and if you can help, and if you do get this information to help, and we've been able to facilitate that, that would be fantastic. So hopefully now this time the technology will allow us to finish in our usual way and tradition, but everything happens for a reason. It wasn't meant to be, but now we'll try again at the end.
And then one last thing, Brother Marni, just before I proceed. I just forgot to mention that, in our European the Pan-African Congress movement at the end of May, that's the 30th and 31st of May, we'll be putting on Africa Liberation Day. It's a celebration that the PSCM has been holding in this country since 1975. And I hopefully by the time LD does come around, the situation in St. Vincent would have improved tremendously. And during LD, it'd be a good thing to highlight exactly what's happening down there. So we'll have a very, very big audience that we'll be talking to. So again, for all those who are listening, remember a date for your diary, Africa Liberation Day, the 30th, that's Sunday the 30th and Monday the 31st of May. And the theme for this year's LD is Pan-Africanism.
Building for the 22nd century.
Building for the 22nd century. And it will consist of basic 6 workshops it will be based around. So we'll be looking at the issue of reparations. We'll be looking at the issue of economics within the African community. We'll be looking at the issue of African spirituality. We're also looking at the issue of our youths, and also the issue of Afrocentricity, Afrocentricity. And we also look at the whole history of the PSCM, how and why it came about. So I'd like to extend an invitation to all those who are listening this evening to be with us on the 30th and 31st of May for Africa Liberation Day.
Can I just? There's two other dates coming up. There's the first ever 22nd of April, the first ever Stephen Lawrence Day. So that's 22nd of April.
2nd of April.
Yeah. And on the 21st, I'm not sure if they celebrate it, the 21st or the 22nd of June is the National Windrush Day. That's to celebrate the arrival of the Windrush in Tilbury Docks. So it arrived on the 21st of June, in the evening of the 21st of June, but the day is celebrated, and people came off of the ship on the 22nd of June. So we're on our, I think it's the third or fourth National Windrush Day on the. I know it's a Tuesday, so I think it is the 22nd. We did a Zoom conference last year. This year we're just waiting for the funding to come in to see whether we're going to do a joint physical one in Wickham and a Zoom. But we had people last year, we worked on it, and we had people join us from the West Indies, from New York, from everywhere. So if that gets set up, I will send that to you. But we celebrate it in Wickham because a lot of our elders were on their own last year, and it was just a way of reaching out to them.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, we'll be looking forward for the communication. Okay, then back over to Indigo.
Okay.
Asante Sana. Asante Sana, that's very information. Thank you for sharing that with us. And and also MZ Pepakai for reminding us about who we are. So in that vein, in that sentiment, we ended African spirituality in our tradition with an invocation. So if you wish to take part, please do. Keep yourself unmuted. If not, then just mute yourself. The African spirituality isn't about coercion, and this tradition that we are performing, this ritual, takes into account all other African traditions, has respect for them, but this is just one of them. We have many ways that we as Africans have found to communicate our spirituality and our understanding of all things. So I will share my screen. Okay, and Dugu, can you let me know when you can see that?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to ring the chime and ring it for a certain number in order to bring us into resonance with each other again. Also so that we can have thanks to the Creator, to the powers of the nature, the cosmic forces underpinning all things, and the ancestors who have allowed us to be together, to talk, to reason, to share with each other, and share with all those who will be watching later on. And we have appreciation and thanks, and also love and fellowship with each other. So we're going to ring that chime and let it resonate with us, go around us, through us, and over us, keeping in mind the powers that we have called upon, that are of us, that are into our conscious reality. They're always with us, but now we brought them into our conscious reality, and they can help us manifest our objectives as long as we take action. We move towards the ancestors, take one step towards them, they take 10 towards us. MZ Pepakai, as an elder, is there a number or that it comes to mind, or some number that you're resonating with, that we can ring the chime? 7. Beautiful. 7 is the spiritual quantity for wisdom, seeking truth and intuition. So as I ring, as I said before, the chime, allow it to go around you, through you, and over you. So if you wish to take part, please do. Sit straight, feet flat on the floor, hands on your thighs, and breathe deeply. Now, counting Kiswahili to keep time. Okay, we'll begin. Moja. Mbili. Tatu. Nne. Tano. Sita. Saba. And finally, we end on the words of manifestation and power on screen. All our words of power, but because of our outlook, because of our intention, because of our character, we give these words power, and we bring things into reality because we have the same power as the creator. We are of the same quality, but not the same quantity as the creator. So, if you wish to take part, please do. Just follow after me, and we say with intent and power. Nguvu zote.
Nguvu zote.
Kwa watu wetu.
Kwa watu wetu.
Mapenzi ya wote.
Mapenzi ya wote.
Ni mapenzi yetu.
Ni mapenzi yetu.
Hakuna mwanzo.
Hakuna mwanzo.
Na hakuna mwisho.
Na hakuna mwisho.
Anuk, amen.
Anuk, amen.
All power to our people. The will of the all is our will. There is no beginning and there is no end to us. I am, amen. I am the underlying creative force underpinning all things. Asanteni sana, Jamal. Thanks very much, family.
Okay, asante sana ndugu Amani, and asante sana for all those who have taken part in the panel today, and asante sana for all those who tuned in. So until next week, when we'll be back again with another very interesting, dynamic presentations and discussion, I bid you all kwa heri.